Ahead on the Thursday town hall, a mass exodus out of Ukraine tonight, a week after Russia invaded. We're going to take you to a border crossing as more than 1 million people have now fled the war-torn country. Plus, medical expenses can take a big bite out of your budget. And with the pandemic and things getting so much more expensive, you may be looking for relief. So can you deduct those costs from your taxes? The Verify team answers that. And criminal investigations into former Governor Andrew Cuomo seem to be over, but some nonprofit groups want a new probe, looking into how he's spending money that was donated to his campaign. We have a live interview ahead with someone who says what he's doing right now is wrong and maybe worse. Good evening to you, everybody. Those stories ahead, but we begin tonight with potentially major news for Western New York, specifically Niagara County. 2 years ago, there were plans to bring a massive regional Amazon distribution center and warehouse here to our region. You'll remember those plans fell apart, but it turns out we may get such a facility after all, and with it, a lot of jobs. So we learned today that the tech company has chosen a new site for the project. It is just across the Niagara River from Grand Island, where the old proposed site was. The plan now is to build it right near the Niagara Falls International Airport. We'll zoom in and show you it's a big plot of land right along Lockport Road in the town of Niagara. Our reporting partners at Buffalo Business First broke this story earlier today, and reporter Jim Fink is here to walk us through what we know tonight. Jim, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. What do you need to know? Amazon, it's a big old project.
It's a big old project. I want to show our viewers kind of the site of what we're talking about today. We went and got some video. You reported that this would be the largest private sector development in recent history in Niagara County. Correct. I wonder if you can take us through some of the numbers on this, where it's going to be located, how big it's going to be, how many jobs we're talking about here.
The entire facility will be about 3 million square feet, and it's going to be about 5 stories total. It's on a vacant parcel, about 216 acres, kind of where Packard and Lockport Road come together on the backside of Niagara Falls Airport. The initial price tag is $300 million plus, because these days with supply chain issues, obviously construction budgets get thrown out of whack all the time. So right now it's $300 million. I suspect by the time they put a shovel in the ground, it'll probably be closer to $325, $330 million. And the real prize in all this, initially 1,000 new jobs, and during the peak holiday season, maybe as much as 1,800 jobs. That is a big prize for this area.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, all of those numbers are very impressive, and especially considering a lot of us didn't think this was ever going to happen after the last project fell through. And speaking of that, let's kind of walk our viewers through how we got to this point. So this started back in 2020. It was the so-called...
Actually, it started in 2019.
2019, okay. Project Olive is what it was called back then, right? Yeah. This was proposed for Long Road on Grand Island. We're showing the plot of land there right now from our drone. After a lot of planning, though, a lot of reporting from you and people in town, and a lot of opposition, that project got scrapped. However, it turns out Amazon's site team was still out there looking at different spots around Western New York, and they ended up with the place that we're talking about now in the town of Niagara. We know that there
Ironically, the site in that town of Niagara, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine.
Was on their short list 3 years ago, and initially they went to Grand Island. There was a real push for Grand Island. Then obviously there was the political and residential opposition, but they never really threw away the Niagara County site. It was always there lurking in the background.
So we know that Amazon also has these smaller operations in Lancaster, Tonawanda, another being built in Hamburg. Those are warehouses, though. They're not these big distribution centers. Can you talk us through kind of what the differences are between those and just how big this project that we're talking about now is in terms of the company's footprint here?
Well, first of all, it's almost 3 million square feet, maybe even more. The ones I referenced to in Lancaster, town of Tonawanda, and what's being built in Hamburg, those are what they call last mile distribution centers. So that's where the trucks come to pick up the last step of the product. When you order something online, it ends up in one of these last mile distribution centers, and then it ends up in your house. What we're talking about in Niagara County is the first step. When the products come to the region, they will come to this massive warehouse, and then they'll get sorted out to whether it goes to Lancaster, Tonawanda, Hamburg, or somewhere else for distribution. So it's a model that works well for Amazon, And in this case, it's going to work well for the region. You know, $300 million investment. We don't see something like this every day of the week. I wish.
We wish we did, right? The town of Niagara is not a big town. Niagara County, in the grand scheme of things, not a huge county. So how big of a challenge is this going to be as we move forward? I mean, we talk about the opposition that there was on Grand Island. Do you anticipate that's going to be a problem here? And just logistically building something like this in a small area?
Let's back up. The logistic part I'm going to address first. They have a science. They can build these things in 18 to 24 months. If it's not a nasty winter, they can maybe fast track it even quicker. Opposition, that always comes with these Amazon projects. There will be some opposition, I'm sure. There will be some pushback, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, the mindset in the town of Niagara is 180 degrees different from Grand Island. They want this project. They will move whatever heaven and earth to make it happen. Now, does that mean they're going to give away the store? No. They're going to ask their questions, as well they should. But I think the approval process will be a lot smoother here in the town of Niagara than it ever would have been in Grand Island.
Interesting. Finally, Jim, let me ask you, and this was immediately brought up when it was brought up before and then again today, this issue of tax breaks. I mean, this is something that we've gotten very used to here in New York State, and a lot of other states do it as well. How do you think that is going to play out in terms of the incentives to get Amazon to come here and to invest this much money?
The hard reality is incentives are part of the package when you're talking major development. I read recently that a auto dealership in Chandler, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix, got tax breaks for a Chevy dealership. So will there be opposition? I know Sean Ryan, for one, has proposed some legislation that says no tax breaks ever for Amazon. I hope that dies on the vine. And I think Sean Ryan should realize, if you don't want that project, tell me the next project that you're going to get that's going to result in $300 million of private sector investment and 1,000 new jobs. That's the end game. That's what people have to focus on. Are there going to be incentives involved? Yes. But there are incentives involved for a lot smaller projects. There are incentives involved for a lot larger projects. It's part of the development game. It's part of the development process. I hate to throw cold water on it, but that's the reality of it.
And we're not the only ones doing it. I mean, we talked about the semiconductor plant and how we were competing, you know, our area in Genesee County with down in Texas, and they were throwing huge subsidies down there as well in tax breaks. So that's just how it plays out. Jim Fink is the reporter with Buffalo Business First who broke this story today. Jim, thanks so much for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. We'll be following this one closely.
No problem. Thank you for being here.
All right.